Good morning. Part 2 of Make Sourdough with me. As you can see, the sourdough is exploding and ready to be made. There's even some that came out onto the counter. If you watched my live yesterday, so this was last night at like 9 or something, I put this together. So we're at 12 hours that this has risen, and I'm ready to form it into sourdough. Obviously, just these few lives, the one I did last night and then today, is not an extensive of how to make sourdough, but kind of just you being able to see it. If you are someone who wants to do more things like this, I'm going to be making what I'm calling my homemakers guide. My goal is to get it out by this first quarter. So this is something I'm going to put in it. I'll have all my sourdough recipes, which if you want my favorite sourdough recipes, you can just drop recipes here in the comments or send me a DM and I will send you my favorites by email. But I just want, if someone's making sourdough for the first time, that they can kind of have a visual of it happening. Obviously you can read a recipe, but for me, I don't know if you're a visual learner like me, I just would rather see someone do it than just like read a recipe that just doesn't do it for me. So I'm gonna hopefully make this in a way that makes sense to people that are visual learners like me. So if you didn't catch why I started getting into sourdough or why it's become such a popular trend right now, you can go back and watch the live that I did last night. But notice what it looks like. This is gonna make 2 loaves that are a good size. So truly, my family could probably eat 1 loaf in 1 sitting because they love it so much. But I'd probably make sourdough once or twice a week. I try to make them stretch a little farther. I'm using King Arthur flour, that's super important. And I have some flour down here on my counter because it's really sticky. So I'm gonna split this in half. It's a Christmas present I got. It's from Mrs. Anderson's Baking. For splitting this in half. I should have put flour on it before I did that. I do not, when I started, guys, I did not have many sourdough tools. So there are people that bake and are just so fancy with sourdough. I am not one of them, but we still get good bread. So if you're a person that wants to be ultra fancy, go for it. That's not me, and I still get good bread for my family. So hopefully there's hope if you are a mom like me and you're busy, that you don't have to be super fancy to get super good sourdough. Okay, so I've split them into 2 now. And what I'm gonna do, if you can see this well, is I'm just gonna take it from the outside and pull it in. Okay, I'm just like covering it in dough because it's so gooey. And just taking it from the outside, pulling it in. Taking it from the outside, pulling it in. Hey, Elijah and Jane, can you please stop yelling? We may have some fights in the middle of this. Okay, so this is like really gooey, and I'm gonna keep doing this until it gets, hey, Elijah and Jane, please stop. I'm gonna keep doing this until it gets like firm and hard. Like I just keep pulling on it until I add some flour here. I'm actually gonna do this a couple times, so obviously I'm not gonna show you all of those because I'm gonna let it rise like 30 minutes in between. I think the recipe I have says to do it about 3 times. Sometimes I get lazy and I don't do it that many times, but the more you're doing this, sometimes you can even hear the bubbles pop when I go and do this. So when you think about like what sourdough looks like when it's like has those holes and all that stuff in it, that's kind of like what you're forming right here. But it's still not super firm, so I'm just gonna keep going until it gets really like tight to pull. Just kind of see what it looks like here. It's still getting sticky, so I'm still rubbing it in the flour because it's still sticky. And I'm gonna do the same thing to both of them. I'm gonna let them sit for 30 minutes and do it again, and then I'm gonna put it in the oven. The best thing to cook it in is a Dutch oven. It just helps it bake so much more evenly. So I'm gonna do 25 minutes on 450 with the lid on. I preheated my oven with the Dutch oven in it. And then I'm going to do, it calls for 5 minutes with the lid off. I usually do 8. I feel like I get better results when I do 8. So obviously as you make it, right, your oven might be a little bit different than mine. You'll notice The more you make it, what works best for your sourdough for baking it that length. And then there is a rule, I guess maybe not a rule, a suggestion that you shouldn't cut into your sourdough until it's sat for an hour. And this has to do with if you do cut it too soon, which I have done this. You know me, sometimes have a hard time following the directions. I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. But it doesn't fine, because what it does is it makes it like really gummy inside if you cut it too soon. So it is actually important, even though it's warm and everyone's excited to cut into it, it is good to wait an hour after it's been cooked, cut into your sourdough, so it doesn't get gummy inside, okay? All right, so I'm gonna cook this. I'm gonna score it, which scoring is really important for letting all the heat come out. So there's tons of different things you can look up online of like ways to score it. I just use a regular knife. You can use a fancy scoring knife if you want to. But it's really that simple. Literally, this is just sitting all night. So let me know if you have questions. Drop recipe in the comment if you want my favorite sourdough recipes, and hope you guys have a great day.